Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Sean Zervis. I'm the technical evangelist at CTC, and today we're going to be talking about the Dimension Checker. We're going to go over a comprehensive introduction on this tool that comes out of our BIM Manager Suite. So first, let's just kind of quickly talk about why this tool. I mean, discovering dimension overrides in models can be tricky. What is a dimension override? Well, this is when somebody clicks on a dimension and clicks on the dimension value. You can put alternative text in there if you want to. And while Revit tries to help prevent people from actually, putting in what looks like a dimension, it can't force everything not to happen. So unfortunately, there's no real way in the Revit interface to identify these kinds of overrides and dimensions that have them. So And really, like I mentioned, there's some pretty dirty techniques that can be used to kind of like go in there and actually override dimension values for your contract documents, for your construction documentation and different views. And this can create some pretty substantial errors between the model and what shows up in contract documents. This means that, MEP engineers, structural engineers, potentially other designers, basing themselves on an architectural model, if there's these overrides, could be a problem, or a structural engineer might do these overrides and cause some problems that might affect the final, precast building or something like that, that could greatly impact the actual built structure versus what was actually coordinated against in the Revit model. And that's a problem. Like that, unfortunately, we need to discover these things and really hold whoever is responsible kind of responsible for this. So, and make them aware of this so that they can actually be able to fix this. It's not really our job to go fix their mistakes necessarily, but we have to know about them so we can react appropriately. So in today's webinar, we're going to talk about how you can access the Dimension Checker once it's installed. We're going to go through the interface. We're going to actually use the tool to discover some issues in a model so you can see exactly how it's supposed to work. We'll even generate a report out of this so you can see how that might be done. And then at the very end, we're going to talk about how you can get your hands on this tool in case you want to install it and use it in your firm for your workflows. So without much more talking here in Death by PowerPoint, let's go directly to Revit and talk about this tool live. I've got a building open here. And if I go to any one floor plan in my building, it's very likely that someplace in this building I'll see some dimensions. Fantastic. That's great. I can see dimensions and probably they're right. I don't know for sure, but they're probably right. And what I was mentioning earlier is that if you click on the value for dimension, you can actually replace it with something. Like maybe you want it to say typical. Oh, great. Do that. See structure. Coordinate with blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. You can put those things in all day long. And that's not really a problem, though I do sometimes like to know where they manifest so I can respond to those if it's my responsibility, actually. But if somebody was to type in something like 8 foot space dash space 0 inches, right? If I click OK here, Revit actually tells me that looks like a dimension, and you shouldn't be doing that. So no, it's not going to let you do it. But again, there's dirty tricks that can be used to make this happen. When it happens, it's really difficult to find it because it looks the same as what's going on out here, or there's other ways of just like kind of controlling that. So what can be done? Well, let's go here to the BIM Manager Suite and take a look at the Dimension Checker, because I don't feel like going through every single floor plan and coordinating Office 3 dimensions to make sure that they're all correct, and for that matter, any other dimensions in my building. So the Dim Checker tool here will allow me to look through my model for any dimension whose value has been replaced with text. I can choose to actually show dimensions actual values as well. So basically show me every dimension string. But to me, that's a little bit less meaningful. I don't typically care about dimensions that are accurate. I care about using this tool to find dimensions that are potentially lying to me. And I'm trying to exclude things like typical, maybe, and see so-and-so. Maybe I want to exclude those from the results. That way I'm only really getting things that I'm not expecting to see at different points in the model. If you care to do so, you can actually use the text fields as well and see things when people put text above or below, left or right of that value. That's another thing that you can do when you're overriding the dimensions here in the model, is you can put text above, prefix it below, and suffix it. And so you can actually kind of discover those things as well. I don't care about those right now. I care about the replace with text. That's what I'm looking for. And so when I hit search, this is going to run through my model and find me all of the dimension strings where the actual value and the replace with text is not typical and not see so-and-so, and the replace with text value is actually overridden. And it actually tells me exactly which view in which these dimensions exist, because, you know, dimensions are very view specific. They're an annotation. They can only exist in a single view at any given time. One exception, of course, is dependent views, but this will list the master view if it finds it. So when I'm looking for these, I want to go figure out where this is. In fact, this dimension string here, 8'2", 8'2", 9'3½", and so on down the list, actually looks a whole lot like this dimension string up here. And so maybe I want to figure out exactly where this is. Well, it looks like it says it's in the O1 floor plan. It's the first of 5 segments, and in fact, all 5 have been overridden at some point. Let's go find this. Well, if I click on this and I tell it to show me, right now I'm in the 01 code plan. This is the 01 floor plan. When I click show, it'll actually open up that view and zoom me in, center to my screen where this is. And if I wasn't sure exactly where it was, I could actually hit select, and it'll actually highlight the dimension for me. So I can start to identify what's going on here, and I can see, well, the first of the 5 segments is supposed to be 8'2", and it's been overridden with 8'0" inches. So I can click into here and say, oh yeah, in fact, that's the case. And if I wanted to now, I could force this to use the actual value and get rid of that overridden property. So I have the ability to interact with the model and actually execute on repairs if it's my responsibility to do so. In a lot of cases, it's not. In a lot of cases, I'm reviewing a model that I got from some outside source. Or maybe I'm a BIM manager doing an overview of a model, kind of like reviewing it and giving a report back to a team, or a person running some CA or QC on a project and kind of checking to see what's going on. I might want to run this tool, and then I'm not necessarily responsible for fixing it. I'm going to hand a series of red lines back or give them this report, because I can save this report out, and then I can give it to them. And again, there's a lot of dirty ways that this can happen. You know, like right here, 16'0" dot. There's a little dot there, and it might be difficult to see. In fact, being an ex-contractor, if I saw this printed on a sheet of paper, I could care less about a spec that's on my document set. I'm going to build this 16-foot, center to center in this case, or face to face, whatever the case may be, because that's what I'm told to do, and I'm never supposed to scale off drawings, even though the actual dimension, the actual physical space is 15'10" and some change. Maybe this person didn't know how to properly round up or down, which I shouldn't be doing anyway, or properly coordinating the actual space. That could cause some discrepancies in this model, depending on which way this went. If I built off of this wall and went and continued on that way, this isn't going to line up properly in these areas. And then maybe the restroom is too small, or something else squirrely might happen. So you might want to make sure you're able to discover these types of things. This one here is actually one of my least favorite methods of overriding dimensions. If I show this one to you, let's go discover where this is here. Let's select this string. Okay, it's this string right here. And the string that's actually a problem is this guy, right here. At some point in time, the spacing between these two must have been 5 feet. Now, looking at this model, clearly, if this is 11 feet, this cannot be 5 feet. But somebody overrode some value with a piece of text that in no way updates with the model, and they put a dot for the dimension string, and they put some opaque text over it, right? Try and discover that yourself. Try and discover all these issues in a model when that might be there. Now, somebody might visually pick up on this during the QC process, but if I can just very rapidly run a report and understand exactly where that particular problem happens to be, that might be meaningful. So that's the dimension checker. It's not a big tool. There's not a lot to it. But what it does do is it gives you information that allows you the ability to understand exactly where dimensions may be overridden and what the ramifications might be, discovering exactly where they are in the model, and even saving out an Excel report to an Excel file to hand off to the team members. One of the things that is included, by the way, is the element ID. So if you give this to team members, they can actually use the manage, where is it at here, selection, inquiry select by ID, and they can select the dimension string themselves in their own project if they did not have the dimension checker tool handy to them. Because this is a BIM Manager Suite tool, and I don't necessarily hand this tool out to everybody. So this is a tool that you will have to have a BIM Manager Suite license for. It is a paid-for tool, but Once you have that, you can run these reports and you can even save them out and hand those Excel spreadsheets off to any team member that you want. So then, if you don't have this suite, how can you get your hands on it? Well, let's go take a look at that. On ctcsoftware.com website here, ctcsoftware.com, you can go to products and you can go to the BIM Manager Suite for Revit 2020 or BIM Manager Suite 2020. This tool, when you install it, actually does apply to Revit 2017 through Revit 2020. If you want to, you can certainly try this suite free for 14 days. You can register for it, get the download link, give it a shot yourself, install it on top of your Revit. It'll again apply to all those Revits 2017 through 2020 with one installation, not 4 different ones, just one installation. And when you license it, it licenses to all 4 as well. But you can try it free. Try it on your projects and see what you might discover. Try it on models you're getting from outside sources or internal models that you yourself are authoring, and just kind of see what the integrity of the dimensions in the model might be. And certainly, if you want to, check out the other tools that also exist here in the BIM Manager Suite that are equally important for some of that project cleanup. I want to thank you for the few minutes you gave me today to take a look at this BIM Manager Suite tool, the Dimension Checker.